Function Keys is a 3-day conference organized by Center 3 for Print and Media Arts that aims to explore contemporary ideas and issues in new technologies and digital culture. Ian, Prep and the Culture of Gay Men's Health. Presented by Ian Jarvis, practicing artist, queer activist, and web developer. PrEP is a radically new pharmaceutical recently approved by Health Canada and recommended by the World Health Organization, a one-a-day pill that prevents gay men who are HIV negative from contracting the virus. It's equally effective as condoms and is equated as being as revolutionary to gay men today as the birth control pill was to women in the 1960s. The fact is gay men no longer need to use condoms or be afraid of contracting HIV. How does this play out in gay male culture, and what is the backlash towards the men who are embracing their sexuality without the constant fear of death and disease looming in the background? This talk will examine the important role that cultural projects like the online Hamilton-based Polari Project plays in shaping of gay men's psychosocial relationships to healthcare, drugs and the body. We'll look at both current and historically roles that artists and cultural producers have played in shaping harm reduction models. We'll delve deep into the present-day often hidden technological, hybrid memes and pharmacological realities of gay men's sex lives. Exploring everything from chemsex to hookup apps and barebacking, we'll be presented with revolutionary methodologies of how gay men can switch rebellious fantasies into empowering realities. About the speaker Ian Jarvis. Ian Jarvis is a graduate of the Ontario College of Arts New Media program and holds a software engineering diploma from Mohawk College. He is currently employed as the senior web content developer and graphic designer for tripcentral.ca, where he manages and designs things like national marketing campaigns, online media content and in-store advertising. He has also worked as the technical coordinator for Center 3 for Print and Media Arts, a local non-profit artist-run center, and Hamilton Artists Incorporated, as the community programming director, during which time he played a major role in securing the funding needed for the completion of the center's James St. North building project. Previous to this he worked for over 8 years at Trinity Square Video in Toronto, as the Media Arts Center's technical director. He has also taught workshops in many different aspects of media arts and computer skills to at-risk groups and marginalized populations, and continues to work on the side doing freelance web work and consulting. Ian is also an award-winning media artist, having received numerous grants. He's produced and directed over 30 different films that have shown on television and played at festivals around the world. He is winner of the Hamilton Arts Award, and his work has been presented multiple times in the Directors Guild of America, the Art Institute of Boston and the British Film Institute, to name a few. His video work is focused primarily around sexuality, HIV/AIDS and issues affecting the LGBTQ community. In 2012 he started the Function Keys Conference, a biannual 3-day lecture-style event that happens in partnership with Center 3 for Print and Media Arts, the goal of which is to explore contemporary ideas and issues in technology and digital culture. Topics include everything from hacktivism and 3D printers to quadrocopters and bioart. He was a founding board member of both The Factory, Hamilton Media Arts Center, and Big Susie's, Hamilton sex worker rights advocacy organization. Currently he serves on the board of directors for the Hammer Theatre Company.
And it's just over a year and a half old now. So this talk, it does have some porn images in it. It is a little explicit. If people have a hard time with gay sex or talking about sexuality, then that's what we're talking about, right? So, and I plan to be quite straight up and blunt. And one of the things I'm going to do first that I think is really important in order to get a grasp of things is to really understand a little bit of queer theory and the issues affecting gay men is really looked at in a lot of academic universities and things now. There's queer studies programs. So this lecture was really difficult for me to put together because there is so much content, but I want it to be accessible because we are being videotaped tonight and it is going to go out to a wider audience. I want it to be accessible not just to gay men, but to a straight audience. So in order to do that, I'm going to start at a very basic level, as basic as I can, but normally this would be like a course that somebody would take, and I'm going to try to cram it down into like 45 minutes. So we'll see how well I do. And we're going to have lots of gaps, but I'm going to do my best. So with that to start, I'm going to start with a bit of a disclaimer too, which is really important, because tonight I'm going to be speaking from my perspective and my experience, And I can't speak for all gay men. Lots of people will disagree with my politics on these issues and my point of view. I think, again, when I'm talking, it's very important when I talk about these issues that people understand it's my perspective, nobody else's. So let's start with the Kinsey scale. The Kinsey scale was developed in 1948. It's a scale that determines where people fall in terms of their sexuality. You have two extremes. It's very, very basic. On one extreme, in this case, it's a 0, would be a straight heterosexual guy who has no inclinations to sleeping with a guy. On the other end, you have the 6, which is exclusively homosexual. And then you have everything in between, right? Like bisexuals, guys who sort of experiment a little bit, incidentally, whatever. And for myself, I would probably fall around a 5, meaning that I have had sex with women. And I do still occasionally, very, very rarely, will have sex with a woman. But I still identify as a gay man. And there's lots of men who do have sex with men who don't identify as gay men. And out of Kinsley's work from 1948, that's where we get the 10% of the population as being gay. So that's 1948. And since that time, our thinking around sexuality has changed pretty dramatically. And right now, the new ideas, we have the Kinsey scale, which is like the 1 to 6, but now we have new charts that are floating around out there that look at things like class, race, privilege, disability, culture, language. And I think that's very important too, because when I'm talking about being gay, I'm talking about it from my experience in Ontario and as a Canadian. It's very different if I was a gay man in Uganda. The experience of being gay and being sexual would be extremely different. So on top of this, we now have a whole bunch of letters that have been added to the gay alphabet, which is the LGBTQ intersex two-spirited A, right? Like we have LGBTQIT. It also had a humorous and campy element to it. So even though it was a secret sort of code, it still had a fun sensibility to it. And it still had sex positivity to it as well. And Polari had over 500 different words. It had a huge vocabulary. And I think I'm just going to play a little bit of it now, so you can actually hear some Polari. Okay, let's listen to some Polari.
According to stretcher case, probably one night she got out of this playing some football. She blanked the brandy lad, pitched it down. It's all over crumble for Pauline. And she did all out to her about in the national handbag. She knows she's waiting for a remold. Had to refake her entire basket. Speaking of baskets, glory and stretchy for abundance. Mind you, it's the dolly ones that disappoint. I was seeing this HP from Sheffield once. Plates the size of bowling pins, what was in for a right child. Nada's Nevada in the Nada. Please you. You need to put the brandy on for that, I said when I saw it. Mind you, she was heavy on the ledge water. Had to use the dash to get Marie around the village. Oh, vile. She always been that way then. It's a walking meat rack. I'd have an open heart. We used to act dicky together with the crow just choked me. Noshed me off once while I was looking at Moses' drabs.
Okay, so I don't know how much of that people understood, but I think we get a gist, like some sex talk in there, something going on, right? And what's interesting about Polari, I'm just going to go back to my slideshow. Hope this works. So what's interesting about Polari as a language is it dates back over 900 years, right? So this language used by gay men, used by sex workers, used by criminals, has been going on for a very long time, and it's actually still used today, right? So there's words that I'll use when I'm with my gay friends, little slang terms, little things that are in code, right? And we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. I'm going to show you some examples of that. But even though watching that film, it looks like it's antiquated, isn't it cute that gay men have to talk like that, gay men still have to talk in code and still have a secret language. And the reason that secret language exists is because we haven't actually accepted the realities of gay men. So, we're going to, again, take a look at the history here and what's going on in the past to understand the present. So, in the 1950s, there was a lot of heavy pressure around pathology, right? Gay men were seen as sick, they were seen as mentally ill, they were seen as something that needed to be cured. And it was often viewed through a medical lens, and people were shamed and grew up thinking there was something ill with them, that it was a fault that lied within themselves, a deficiency, something the mother did, something whatever. All these crazy-ass theories came out that made it very, very difficult for gay men to accept themselves, but it was also our bodies and our minds and our behaviors were put under intense scrutiny. And if we jump ahead, we're going to jump ahead to the 1960s and 70s, where a lot of things started to happen, right? So it was this was sort of the coming out period. We had gay liberation, we had the women's movement, we had all these progressive things coming forward. And a lot of terminologies, like it's good to be gay, a day without lesbians is like a day without sunshine. I think that's a great one. A lot of sex positivity came out of that, and things started to open up, right? Like they started to have bathhouses. That's when more and more bathhouses started to open up. It's when more and more bars started to open up. And in a lot of ways, it was a golden age for the gay community. And it was, a lot of movement and civil rights for gay men and lesbians started to take place, as well as the opening up of possibilities for open relationships, intergenerational relationships. There was a lot of literature produced and a huge amount of dialogue that doesn't really exist in the same way that it did back then. And then, of course, something bad happens, right? We hit the AIDS crisis. And when the AIDS crisis hit, it was like a Holocaust. People didn't know why they were getting sick. It decimated gay men. It took out a whole generation of gay men died. And with that, sex came from something that was free and liberating to be associated with death, right? So suddenly you went from this great, sexuality is great, sexuality is wonderful, go out and fuck, screw whoever you want, have a good time fucking, to you do that and you die. You're going to be punished, you're going to get sick. You were already a sick person, as we know from the 1950s, and this is what you get, right? And that really, it's interesting because it was a Holocaust, and I'm 47 years old, and when I look at the generation of gay men who I went to high school with, and my gay teachers in high school, I went to an arts high school, so it's very, very lucky and privileged that way. A lot of them now are HIV positive or dead, right? So when this hit, it took out an entire group of people.